Welcome to Leaders with Lessons. I'm your host, Shaun Walsh, where I talk to senior leaders, founders, and decision makers about the realities of leading change, transformation, AI adoption, and personal growth. As always, this show is brought to you by the Get It Done framework. It's how we help leaders who've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, get clear on which direction is actually worth backing before they commit. The way in is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1-hour session with a senior pair of eyes. No presentation or business case needed, just a conversation. You come away with the recommended way forward, the real risk named, and a clear next move. If that sounds useful right now, the link's in the show notes. But more importantly, on today's show, our guest is Abby. Abby, welcome to the conversation.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do.
Thanks very much for having me, Shaun. I am, I'd like to say, an expert in HR. So I've been within the HR format since 2008 when I began as a practice manager for the NHS, which I'm really grateful for because it really is, you're dealing with a lot of challenging situations. So it kind of threw me into the experience. So I'm about to step in as an HR director for a company. So I'm kind of in between roles at the moment, but essentially my skill set is probably my niche is companies that don't really have much of an HR process or don't really have the behaviors in place to bring out the best in people. Huge fan of transparency. And it's simple stuff. It's communication, it's frameworks. And talking openly and honestly, really, for transparency. So I just kind of go into companies and set them up for better processes, really.
Brilliant. That sounds like important work being able to hold that together. But kind of what I'm hearing through it as well, you're really accounting for the human element of it and the connections with people in those organizations.
Yeah, I think it's very easy.
Yeah.
Yes, the people bit's really important. I think many companies, and actually a lot of my learning has been as a leader, you go in with a process and you're very organized and you're very project management sort of oriented and you leave the people behind because you know you want to get from A to B, but you actually forget that we're still learning from those people that are doing the everyday piece of work.
Yeah.
And you just can become quite flippant. Whereas actually, I think if you can bring everybody with you, you're just going to enjoy the experience much more and make it real because you end up putting frameworks and processes in place, just forgetting the everyday challenges that go on in the workplace. I think at the moment, especially, there's a lot of pressure on people. There are a lot of new businesses. Everybody says, you need the experience of working in a fast-paced environment. I think that's really challenging for people.
Yeah, I think you're right. Certainly the pace of it, be it technology change, driving businesses needing to adapt, new businesses starting in response to technology change. And the common factor, it seems, and it's come up a lot through these conversations on the podcast, is that human element. And how do we account for that? What appropriate guardrails do we need in place to make sure that people can operate are protected, safe within the work, and have also got the appropriate route for any support that they need? But I think, as you say, not do that and not kind of just do that for the sake of it. Embed something that actually serves the people, serves the organization, is helpful, and stays in touch with that human and people need as well.
Definitely. I've done it myself where I've thought I'm being a really good leader of something. My advice is always start from where you are now. I think sometimes it's very easy to start from where you want to be or where you think you are. But actually, I think if there's a change management piece, if there's a project or any work change coming up, it's really good to have a conversation like this. Actually, where are we now?
Yeah.
And start from there, because that does mean you're going to enjoy the experience more and you're going to take everybody with you.
Mm.
Whereas if you, particularly in my role, if you start from where you want to be, it's a cul-de-sac. You're not really going to be opening
Yeah.
that true conversation and talking about the challenges that are in place. The downside of not thinking about the team and the people and only thinking about the business
Yeah.
is it's very one track focused. You're not actually going to be looking at the reality. There's so many really good leaders, CEOs, MDs, senior leadership teams, and there's that predominant focus. But actually, if you look at what's really going on in a department, we don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know what's happening each day in those spaces. And my learning has definitely been, and don't assume, have
Mm.
these really easygoing conversations to begin any project change, any change management piece with a cup of coffee, have a chat and really understand where each other is. It just builds the trust as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a key point, the trust. Uh, Fundamentally,
Mm,
if we break it down, we transact a lot on that, whether we're aware of it or not, based on the trust that often gets tested through elements of change, either responding to external pressures within the business environment, which you can probably simplify as growth and more revenue or even
yeah,
stability, or delivering in an established bigger firm where things are inevitably always changing. And if we're transacting on trust, I think if I'm right from what you're saying, look to build that and embody that early, not just for the sake of it and a tick box exercise from a
yeah,
process or a plan perspective, really connect with people on the ground. What is the reality now rather than what's the
yes,
forecast of how we think things should be in the near future?
yes. Yeah, a really good thing to do is, and I've always done this actually, it's one thing, and I've changed a lot in how I've worked, but the one thing I still do is a bit of a gap analysis
Right.
where you literally have a piece of paper and you talk about, on the right, you look at where you want to be,
Yeah.
which really opens up more conversation. So it really starts to get the ball rolling and gets trust in place. And everybody's excited about it.
Mm.
And that means you then say, okay, well, where are we now? And because conversation has already started and people have been animated and excited,
Yeah.
they're able then to come together and talk about actually where are we now and what do we need to do to make a difference. If you start
Yeah.
with where you are now, people aren't going to have the confidence to say anything. They haven't
Yeah.
built
Yeah.
that trust with each other. There's no excitement there. So again, I always do that, but it used to be quite formatted. It
Hmm.
was right, let's get the post-it notes out. Now it isn't. It's a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right, come on, guys. Sitting at the same level as everybody. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And let's talk about it really openly. And it's such a game changer.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I've seen that mechanism under different names, but I think
Yes,
fundamentally what we're looking at there is a different psychological response. If you're forecasting
yes,
forward, it's perhaps removing the risk, and it's calling from a different part of the brain. You're creating a quest, a joining quest, where
yes,
each people can project and look to, rather than be
yes,
anchored to the felt realities of where they are now,
yeah.
which is a little bit more potentially disparate. So there's a binding ingredient there on forecasting, I think, forward to joining a quest together.
Yeah, I think when there's siloed working, a lot of the places I've worked in, that's been one of the challenges. And trying to pull people together and bring them into the same room and into the same conversation, that's always a really good way
Yeah.
of removing that, because actually the minute someone talks about something, that encourages someone else to say, oh my goodness, yes, I did that once, or I saw this happen and it was, and it's just a really positive conversation, and that just opens you up more safely to talk about all the crappy things that are going on now that you you kind of want to avoid.
Yeah, well, that comes back to what you said earlier. I think you're starting to build that trust and there's some rapport
Yeah,
there and the
yeah.
commonality. Okay, we may have touched on this already. We could have answered it previously, but I'll come full circle on it. You're looking to the future now. You're starting your new role, which
Yeah.
sounds exciting. No doubt you'll do fantastic within that. But if you were to cast your mind back to when you probably first started out within business
Mm,
on this
mm.
journey of yourself, is there anything that you'd do different? And can you package that into a lesson for anybody listening that could benefit from that?
Um, I think we touched on it a little bit when we were talking about that human side of things
Yeah,
and that authenticity. And I think it's really easy to, by accident, sort of talk down to people. Um, so my learning has definitely been to ask more questions,
okay,
um, have that confidence to ask those questions. I think many people now, businesses are more selective with who they bring in. I'm going in as an HR director. It's my job to ask those awkward questions
yeah,
and to have that confidence to ask more, listen more, and not assume as much.
yeah,
And I don't think I did that as much initially. I think I went in thinking I've got all the Lego pieces. I
mm.
can just build this tower myself. But, there's a big joke in HR that, I'd be great at my job if it wasn't for the people.
I think
Um,
that joke transcends tech and any business change as well.
um, and, obviously we all say that on a on a bad day, but the 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 joy I get from speaking to people and listening to them and really understanding means that I'm already on the way to building trust and building relationships, and I'm making that relationship better much sooner
Yeah,
than how it used to be for me. So yeah, I think rather than going in thinking I've got to do this, a bit like we were talking about with change management and
mm.
transformation and leading it and owning it and having all the Lego bricks, it's
Yeah,
actually just go in open-minded, but without a script, and actually really listen and understand, because that hour conversation with that person is going to do so much for you longer term. It also means that by default, when you are in an engaging conversation, you aren't being condescending. You're
yeah,
actually encouraging them to have that confidence to speak at you and tell you what you need to hear. And it just builds that trust really, really well. So I think that's something I've got much, much better at over time. Even when I was an HR consultant, or was a business partner working for sort of multiple businesses, it just completely changed my narrative. And it's really, really simple, but people want simple things. They don't
yeah,
want to be given jargon and, given all these cliches. People want really good communication. They want to know where we're going, what we're doing, what do you expect of me?
mm.
And that is it, because most people are here to do well. They're
Yeah,
not here to trip you up. So I think really good, straightforward conversation. And anytime now I'm doing a facilitation or a project day, I'll say, right, this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to ask you these questions. This is what we
mm.
need to get from today. This is where we're going. I'm going to challenge you. They have no surprises. They automatically go, okay.
Mm.
So I think having a really healthy, open conversation, clarity, telling
Yeah.
people what you're doing and where you're going, game changer. I don't know if that's a nicely packaged little snippet, because it's something I'm quite passionate about. So sorry about
No,
that, Shaun.
no, it's great. And it really comes through. And there's a synergy in everything we've talked about, certainly with the listening and being able to hold
Mm,
that space
mm,
for people and groups, which comes back to trust. being authentic, being open, building that trust, not shying away from probably some of the harder structuring conversations that are needed, but
Yes.
base it on trust and that human connection.
I think diversity, and I don't mean everybody talks about diversity. It's overused and really underplayed. Um, there's a book that talks about how many things in the world wouldn't have happened if there had been a more diverse environment.
Mm,
And it's so true. We choose the people that agree with us. We like to sit with people that have the same opinions as us,
yeah,
and it's safe and it
yeah,
reduces risk in terms of our own reputation. But it's wrong. It's so important to have people around the room that have different experiences, from somebody who's doing something that's hidden away in the business versus
yeah,
somebody who's, in the leadership team, and have those open conversations. Ask the quietest person what their thoughts are, because you're going to get a really good answer, because they're possibly an overthinker.
mm,
Someone that is an overthinker is going to give you a really tried and tested answer. So I think having that diverse workforce, and it stops people getting impatient and being frustrated. And I only want to hear things that I want to hear. It really regenerates that conversation, which goes back to trust.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear that. That's a really rich response. I think too often, if you've not got that trust or even the maybe the confidence and awareness and the stability within the
Yes.
organization to make those decisions, it's very easily to slip into um, unconscious confirmation bias,
Yes.
and then we fill in the story with the information that I mean, we find what we look for. So to be able to break that and look at it through a different lens is a real mature way to operate, and that feels like a leap for a lot of organizations. Because if some are looking
Yeah.
for stability and to control that narrative, but the opportunity missed with that, I think, is, as you say, it's you're discounting different ways of doing things, different opinions that could more often than not get you even better results. But it takes more structured holding to get you out of that comfortable way of working sometimes.
It does. Where I'm going to be working, a lot of people have gone from doing the day job to suddenly, the point of impact for you is I'm going to make you a manager. And it's I'm not going to go in there and complicate that and make that really challenging. It's going to be much more about, what conversations do you enjoy having? It's bringing that human spirit to somebody that's a manager, that human skill set, rather than textbook, this is how you need to be as a manager. And it's encouraging them to have the confidence and to listen, and to not feel that by being told something by somebody lowers who they are in terms of
Mm.
their responsibility. And that, I think that's really important, because there are so many people that become managers and we think they've got all the skill set to do that, and they haven't. And a lot of the time it's competence and confidence. um but again, I don't do that via a textbook. I do that by bringing much more of the human out in them.
Yeah,
And yeah, opening that conversation more diversely. And I just think they'll really enjoy it much more than they would have done if I was just chucking a framework in their face or at them.
yeah, yeah. I don't doubt it. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I could speak to you all day on this. I think it's great work that you do, and all the best in your next role and the opportunity that you're stepping into as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
but for now, if people wanting to connect with you, what's the best way for them to?
I'm on LinkedIn as Abigail Tester.
Yeah,
um that's probably the easiest way of finding me.
fantastic. Yeah, and thanks again for being on the show and passing on those great lessons. And as a reminder for everybody listening, this show's brought to you by the Get It Done framework. So if you've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, but need to get clear on where you actually are before your next move, it can help. The way in is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1-hour session with a senior pair of eyes that gets the problem out of your head and into something you can work with. You come away with a clear next step, and if that sounds useful right now, the link's in the show notes. But till the next episode, remember, the obstacle becomes the way.